All right, let's talk about what I consider to be the 7 most overrated quarterbacks in football. This is inherently going to be a bit of a difficult list to compile, and essentially, I mean, sometimes I look at these like overrated lists, and quite frankly, they're just like not very good. Like, oh, Mac Jones is overrated. No, he's just bad, right? Like, sometimes it's that. To be an overrated quarterback, inherently, when I say their name, you have to have a reaction and say, wait a second, they're not that overrated. And then hopefully when I explain why I put them on the list, you can say, okay, I can give it to you. They're maybe a little overrated. That's what I'm going for here with this video. So let's get into the list. These are in no particular order. I'm just going to do 7 quarterbacks that I consider to be slightly overrated, some for, bigger reasons than others. Let's get into it. First, I'm going Michael Penix Jr., who, let me explain why I have him on the list. So, someone who I was a huge fan of coming out of college. I think he was a massively underrated prospect, and I even kind of half defended the move by the Falcons when they drafted him. I kind of felt like the Kirk Cousins contract was the real mistake they made, not the Penix draft pick, and that's proven to be correct. He looked really good when he came in and played for Atlanta. I just think sometimes it happens where a quarterback comes in, plays a few games in their rookie deal and then rookie year, and then everyone says, well, they're great. Can't wait to see them be great next year. And it's like, well, hold on. They're still young. There's still going to be growing pains. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a great player eventually. I think Falcons fans should be excited. I just think people sometimes with these young players jump the gun a little bit. So that's why I have him on the list. Again, his potential is not overrated, but I think there might be some growing pains next year, which is why he's on the list. Also, Drake May's on the list for essentially the exact same reason. Showed some real flashes his first year, but ultimately, I think people have already decided he's a great quarterback because they say, well, look at the situation around him. And don't get me wrong, the situation was tough last year, and it should be at least better this next year. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's just going to ultimately be great because he's in a better situation. It doesn't always work that way, right? So, again, the potential is not overrated, but how good is he going to be next year? I wouldn't just bank on him being great right away. There's still going to be growing pains. The third player on this list, which again, this is in no particular order, Kirk Cousins, which is easily the one that you could argue shouldn't even be on this list, because a lot of people are going to say, is Kirk Cousins even rated at all? Doesn't everyone think that he's washed up? But the answer is no. There's been a lot of talk about should a team trade for Kirk Cousins? Should a team try to get him on the roster, maybe to be a starter? And if you watched him in Atlanta last year, especially down the stretch, he just wasn't even that. He was maybe a backup quality player his last year. So because of that, I decided to put him on the list. But definitely he is the lowest rated out of the overrated quarterbacks on this list. You could argue he shouldn't be on it, but I decided to put him on anyway. The fourth player that I'm putting on this list, again in no particular order, is the player that you knew would be on this list if you watched this channel, Jared Goff, which, again, do I have some weird hatred towards Goff? No, I don't. I actually think that he seems like a pretty cool guy, but I just think that he does get a bit overrated because I do think he has been in a great situation, and when I watch him play, I do feel like far more often than not, what I am seeing is that on the plays that work, he does a very good job at, making the play work, and that sometimes that's not just him throwing the ball in a general area, it's, this concept, I need to go to this read instead of that read, I can do that. He's very good at that stuff, and he deserves all the credit he gets for that stuff. I do feel like when a play breaks down, he can struggle. That's kind of been his career has been that. I feel like the better situation he's in, the better he plays. The worse situation he's in, the worse he plays, which is true for everybody, but it's especially true for Goff because he isn't much of a playmaker. He really only runs the offense as designed, and he's also not going to do like the Tom Brady things of, figuring out a unique way to get a play to work post-snap, things like that, which, again, very few people do the Tom Brady things, but you get my point, hopefully. Goff is a great quarterback. Goff is a very, very strong quarterback who the Lions should be very happy to have, but when he gets put in MVP discussions, when I see him being on a lot of people's top fives, on their top quarterback list, that's just too much for me. He is a tier below that, in my opinion, which is why I put him on this list. Dak Prescott, I put on the list as well, a kind of perennial guy who every time I look at these, lists just to see how people are viewing, he's always significantly higher than I feel like he should be. Don't get me wrong, again, similar to Goff, he's a good quarterback. There are a lot of things to like about Dak Prescott, but I just feel like for whatever reason, him and Goff both get put into like that fringe elite tier, when in my opinion, they are not. They are a tier below. So because of that, that's why I have him there. With him and with Goff, I feel like every time I make one of these videos, this stuff gets lost in translation because, again, overrated does not mean bad. Overrated does not mean you can't play football. It just means I think that there are people who rate you higher than I would personally. So for him and Goff, that's why they both ultimately make the list. I'm going to throw Jaylen Herz on this list as well, which, again, some people will disagree with, which is the point. If everyone agreed with it, then they're not overrated, right? So I got to get a take that some people will disagree with. Ultimately, I like Hurts a lot. I had him as a top 10 quarterback when I did my own top 10 quarterback ratings, and I had him relatively high. I just feel like because of the Super Bowl win, he has gotten overrated, which, hey, the goal was to win a Super Bowl. He did the goal. He did the thing you're trying to do. So I think it's fair to bump him up in your rankings because of that. It's how I bumped him up. But I do see him, again, getting top 5 rankings, some people even higher than that, putting him above guys like Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, which I just can't get behind because, well, he was great in those final 2 playoff games. It's not like he was the driving force in the first 2, and it's not like this was his best year or anything. There are things he does a great job of. Obviously, his calling card being the deep shot to A.J. Brown at this point, which those guys are just, they have that. It's just automatic at this point. A lot to like about Hurts. Again, you can be a good quarterback and make the list. I just feel like, again, I've seen him as high as like 2 on some people's top 10 list. That's just a little crazy to me. So, again, very good quarterback and played great when he needed to in the Super Bowl. Guys won a Super Bowl MVP. So, deserves plenty of credit. But thinks, again, because of that, obviously some people are going to overrate him a bit. And so that's why he makes this list. Still a very good quarterback. And finally, I'm going to put Jordan Love on this list, which is kind of an easy one for me, to be honest. While a lot of these were difficult to find 7. I think he was one that was going to be on this list from the start. Listen, I don't think he's a horrible quarterback, and he has games where he looks like he is the next big thing, right? I think the issue is that people have just already stated that, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, it's been perfect, and it hasn't been. Love has had massive ups and downs over the course of his career. And you hear people saying, he's a bit more Brett Favre than Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre won a Super Bowl and 3 MVPs. He is not on that level yet. He just isn't. This is not a top 10 quarterback as of today. He might get there. He's still relatively young, and certainly young in terms of football games played, only 2 years. So I think you want more consistency out of him. He's had great stretches, for sure. It seems like each year he's played, he's had a 7-8 game stretch where he's played great, but he's also had the games where he hasn't played as good. Now, again, he was banged up last year. Maybe he just needs to be healthy, and in a third year he could be great. Sure, that's totally possible, and then he won't make the list next year. But I think people are already just assuming that's what's going to happen, which I don't think is fair to do. So for me, Jordan Love does make this list. So yeah, those are my 7 quarterbacks who make the most overrated quarterback list. Again, always difficult to figure out exactly who should make the list and who shouldn't, but those are my thoughts. Let me know. I'm sure that you will have opinions. That's the point of this thing, is you're supposed to disagree. If you don't disagree with any of my takes, then I've done something wrong. So let me know what you disagree about in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.